Why, how? Let's uncover the secret behind one of the most misunderstood coins in American history, where history, rarity, and human fascination collide in a way no one saw coming. In 1976, the United States was celebrating its 200th birthday. Fireworks, parades, a rebirth of patriotism. The U.S. Mint wanted to capture that energy in metal, to create a keepsake that every American could hold in their hands. So they redesigned 3 circulating coins: the $quarter, the Eisenhower dollar, and the Kennedy half-dollar. Each would bear a special dual date, 1776 to 1976, and an image honoring the nation's bicentennial. For the half-dollar, designer Seth G. Huntington gave us something remarkable. The presidential seal on the reverse, with its proud eagle, its arrows, its olive branch, a symbol of America's power and peace. Millions were struck. They jingled in pockets across the country. But among them, a few carried a secret. A handful of these Kennedy half-dollars were struck without a mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, not even a P for Philadelphia. Just the face of President John F. Kennedy staring into history and the dual date beneath. At first glance, nothing unusual. But for those who know what to look for, these coins tell a deeper story, of mistakes, of miscalculations, and of the relentless pursuit of perfection in American minting. Now, here's where things get fascinating. Most 1776-1976 Kennedy half-dollars are worth 50 cents, maybe a few dollars in pristine condition. But the no-mint mark examples, especially those struck in error or with exceptional proof-like finishes, those are something else entirely. Collectors began to notice subtle differences. A sharper strike here, a mirrored field there, a slight doubling of the date. Some were struck on silver planchets intended for collector sets, yet somehow escaped into circulation. And the numismatic market, ever driven by rarity and the allure of a story, took notice. One of these no-mint mark bicentennial Kennedy half-dollars, preserved in nearly flawless condition, was recently valued around $714,000, and that's not speculation, it's the culmination of a trend where American coinage transforms from common change into generational wealth. But let's not just talk about numbers. Let's talk about what this means. Every collector knows that the real value of a coin lies in its story. The Kennedy half-dollar was first minted in 1964, mere months after the president's assassination. It became a symbol of mourning and unity. People didn't spend them. They kept them as mementos of hope and loss. For many Americans, the coin felt sacred. By 1976, the bicentennial design turned that emotional connection into national pride. It wasn't just about John F. Kennedy anymore. It was about 2 centuries of endurance, about what the nation had survived. That emotional weight is why the coin endures in the hearts of collectors. It's not rare because of a missing letter. It's rare because it represents a chapter of history that still feels alive. But how does a coin without a mint mark become a 6-figure masterpiece? It begins with human error. Mint marks are applied through specialized hubs and dies. Occasionally, a die intended for the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't typically use a mark at the time, was used to strike silver-clad planchets reserved for proof sets. The result? Coins with physical characteristics of high-end collector issues, but without any mint identification. A ghost among mint records. Most of these coins were discovered years later, hidden in inherited collections or pulled from rolls saved by chance. Imagine opening a box your grandfather tucked away in 1976, finding a coin he thought was nothing special, only to learn it could pay for your home. It's that sense of what if that drives collectors. The possibility that a fortune hides in plain sight, resting quietly in an envelope or a jar of pocket change. But let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered why people pay such extraordinary sums for coins? It's not just metal, it's psychology. The collector's mind is wired for rarity, for completion, for the thrill of discovery. A no-mint mark bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar isn't just a mistake, it's a fingerprint of history. It proves that even in the most controlled systems, perfection slips. And when it does, beauty emerges. There's also prestige. Owning such a coin isn't merely an investment. It's an inheritance of legacy. When a collector holds it, they hold a tangible piece of America's bicentennial celebration, one struck under the shadow of Kennedy's memory. Now, let's talk about market dynamics. Over the past 2 decades, rare U.S. coin prices have surged, particularly for coins that blend historical symbolism with scarcity. High-grade examples of 1776-1976 Kennedy half dollars in silver composition have climbed steadily in value, especially when certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC. But the no-mint mark variation has outperformed expectations, partly because it exists in a gray area between regular strike and proof, difficult to categorize, hard to replicate, and nearly impossible to replace. Seasoned investors recognize the trend. Coins tied to major national milestones, like the bicentennial. The centennial or key presidential issues tend to perform well during periods of economic uncertainty. They serve as both nostalgia and refuge. Think of it this way. When markets fluctuate, people seek tangible assets with emotional resonance. A coin that embodies both patriotism and rarity fits that description perfectly. And yet, beyond price charts and grading slabs, the real magic of the 1776-1976 no-mint mark Kennedy half dollar lies in its mystery. How many were truly struck? No one knows for sure. Estimates vary wildly, from a few dozen to perhaps a few hundred, lost among millions of ordinary coins. Each discovery reopens the question, are there more out there? Sitting unnoticed in albums, vaults, or the forgotten corners of safe deposit boxes? That's what keeps collectors awake at night. The possibility that the next great find is still waiting. Picture this. A retired postal worker in Pennsylvania opens an old coin jar one evening. Inside, a familiar bicentennial half-dollar glints under the light. He notices something odd, no mint mark. He checks online. His hands tremble. The next morning, he sends it to be authenticated. Weeks later, it returns, graded near perfection. Estimated market value, over $500,000. This isn't just a fantasy. Stories like this echo through collector circles every few years, reminding us that numismatics is not a hobby of the past. It's an ongoing adventure, alive with discovery. But here's a pattern interrupt worth thinking about. While everyone chases the 1776-1976 no-mint mark Kennedy half dollar, few realize that condition is the real multiplier. A coin worth $50 in circulated condition could be worth thousands if it's untouched, properly stored, and flawlessly struck. That's why so many serious collectors treat their coins like art. Controlled humidity, archival holders, cotton gloves. Each coin becomes a miniature museum piece. Because when you protect history, history eventually rewards you. And if you think this story ends with just one coin, think again. Every major coin in U.S. history, from the 1909 Lincoln cent to the 1933 double eagle, started as pocket change. Their value grew not because they were made of gold or silver, but because they carried a narrative of era, endurance, or evolution. The bicentennial Kennedy half dollar stands among them, a modern legend in the making. A reminder that the treasures of tomorrow are hiding in the ordinary today. Now imagine this. 50 years from now, your grandchildren are sorting through your collection. They find the Kennedy half dollar you saved, the one you almost spent decades earlier. By then, its story is legend. Its value? Unthinkable. Because you didn't just collect a coin, you preserved a chapter of American history. That's the essence of coin collecting. It's not about hoarding wealth. It's about holding on to meaning. Each coin is a time capsule, a whisper from the past saying, "Remember me. I was there when history turned." So what should you do if you come across a 1776-1976 Kennedy half dollar with no mint mark? First, don't rush to clean it. Don't polish it. Leave it exactly as it is. Second, examine it under magnification. Check for clarity of strike, reflectivity of the fields, and any signs of being struck on a silver-clad plancher. Third, have it authenticated by a reputable grading service. A small investment in certification could reveal a life-changing treasure. And finally, appreciate it. Because even if your coin isn't the six-figure variety, it's still a relic of the American bicentennial, a moment when a nation celebrated its survival. and minted its pride into metal. In a world chasing digital currencies and fleeting trends, the Kennedy half-dollar reminds us that true value doesn't disappear, it endures. Somewhere in America right now, a coin jar sits on a shelf. A child might drop in a bicentennial half-dollar, unaware that it holds a secret, a story, and perhaps even a fortune. That's the beauty of numismatics. It's not just about collecting coins, it's about collecting moments, about finding history in the smallest, most ordinary places. And for those who pay attention, for those who look closely, sometimes history pays back. So the next time you hold a 1976 Kennedy half-dollar in your hand, pause, look closer. Because that faint, unmarked face of President Kennedy might just be staring back at you, not as a memory, but as a million-dollar possibility. And in that moment, you'll realize some treasures aren't buried underground. They're already in our hands. When the year 1971 arrived, America was changing. The moon landing still echoed in our collective memory. President Nixon was steering the nation through inflation and uncertainty, and silver, that shining foundation of American coinage, was being quietly retired. Up until that moment, the half-dollar carried a proud legacy. The Kennedy half-dollars of 1964, struck in 90% silver, were minted as a national tribute, a moment of collective mourning turned into art. But by 1971, silver was gone from circulation coins. The Treasury had decided the new half-dollar would be copper nickel-clad, not silver. The Philadelphia Mint, operating without a mint mark that year, produced over 155 million of these new coins. Ordinary, modern, practical, but within that ocean of copper and nickel, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. A few rare transitional-era coins, coins that should never have existed, were born. Some 1971 Philadelphia Kennedy half-dollars were accidentally struck on leftover 40% silver planchets meant for 1970 coins. It was a quiet mechanical hiccup in an era of change, unnoticed by mint officials, unseen by the public. But for collectors, decades later, these mistakes became miracles, shimmering bridges between two eras of American money. Imagine it, a single coin, identical to millions in appearance, but inside, beneath the surface, a composition from another time. The hidden DNA of silver. Most of these transitional errors went unnoticed for years. They circulated like any other half-dollar, used to buy a newspaper, a sandwich, or a cup of coffee. But time, as always, is the great revealer. Fast forward to recent years. Numismatists testing old half-dollars began to notice faint clues, a slightly different tone when the coin dropped on a tabletop, a subtle difference in luster under light, or a barely perceptible variance in weight. One of these Philadelphia Mint 1971 Kennedy half-dollars was tested and confirmed to contain silver. It sold for over $13,000. And another, preserved in nearly uncirculated condition, with a perfect strike and a mysterious silvery hue, shattered expectations, fetching a market value of $711,000. Here's the question that gives every collector chills. How many more of these coins still exist? Hiding in old cigar boxes, drawers, or family albums? That's the allure and the obsession of coin collecting. It isn't just about metal, it's about mystery. Every collector secretly dreams of that one coin, the overlooked relic that rewrites their story. Let's step back for a moment. Why does a mistake command such staggering value? Because in the world of numismatics, imperfection creates rarity, and rarity breeds desire. When the mint accidentally strikes a coin with outdated materials, it creates an artifact that shouldn't exist, a tangible contradiction, frozen in time. It's the same reason the 1943 bronze Lincoln 1-cent coins and the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagles haunt collectors' imaginations. They are fragments of human error in a machine-driven system, proof that even in precision there's poetry. And the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar from the Philadelphia Mint is no different. It's a coin that marks the end of America's silver era, the first step into modern-clad coinage, and perhaps one of the last echoes of the Mint's metallic legacy. But let's not forget who it honors. President John F. Kennedy wasn't just another portrait on our coins. When the design debuted in 1964, Americans lined up around banks just to hold his likeness in their hands. Many never spent those coins. They hoarded them, cherished them, stored them away as if preserving a piece of a national heartbreak. By 1971, that emotional connection still lingered. Even though silver was gone, the image of Kennedy remained sacred, a face that embodied hope, loss, and the American dream. So, when collectors hold a rare 1971 Philadelphia Mint Kennedy $50, they aren't just holding a transition error. They're holding a story: the end of silver, the persistence of memory, and the unpredictable alchemy of value. Now, here's where things get even more intriguing. The silver era isn't the only mystery lurking among the 1971 $50. Collectors have also uncovered double-die obverses, rotated dies, and proof-like surfaces on business strikes, anomalies that spark bidding wars in specialized auctions. And because so many of these coins circulated heavily, finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is like finding a shipwreck intact beneath the waves. That's why grading matters. A 1971 $50 with the faintest of wear might be worth $1 or $2, but one that gleams under magnification, with mirror-like fields and crisp lettering, can leap from pocket change to life-changing fortune. It's no exaggeration to say that condition, composition, and provenance can transform a 50-cent piece into a six-figure asset. Collectors who understand this aren't just buying coins, they're investing in legacy. Because rare coins have a unique kind of wealth, one that transcends markets. While stocks rise and fall, while currencies inflate and deflate, a truly rare coin endures. It becomes an heirloom, a conversation piece, a piece of history you can hold. Think of it this way: gold and silver are commodities. But coins? Coins are stories stamped into metal. They carry fingerprints of the past, whispers of the mint, and echoes of every hand they've passed through. And if you're wondering how to spot a 1971 Kennedy $50 that might hold silver, here's a quiet tip seasoned collectors use. First, weigh the coin. A normal copper-nickel $50 weighs about 11.34 grams, but a silver-clad transitional era will weigh closer to 11.5 grams. Then, listen to it. Yes, literally. Drop it gently on a hard surface. Silver rings with a distinct, bright tone, while clad copper-nickel lands with a duller thud. And finally, study the edge. The modern clad version reveals a visible copper core along the edge, while the silver variant has a clean, even coloration. But here's the catch. Many forgeries exist, and only professional grading can confirm authenticity. That's part of the thrill. The hunt, the doubt, the suspense. Every time a collector examines a 1971 $50, they're replaying a small detective story from the past. Some people call it luck, others call it skill. But in truth, it's intuition. That quiet voice that tells a collector to look twice at an ordinary coin, to weigh it, to question it, to wonder what secrets lie beneath its surface. And when that intuition pays off, when a once-forgotten coin turns out to be a silver transitional era worth hundreds of thousands, it's not just a financial victory, it's vindication. Proof that curiosity still has value. You might be thinking, if these coins are out there, why aren't more people finding them? Because opportunity hides in plain sight. Most people don't look. They assume old coins are just old metal. They spend them, melt them, dismiss them. Collectors, on the other hand, see patterns: the weight of a year, the flicker of a minting anomaly, the faint shimmer that doesn't match the rest. That's what separates the investor from the visionary. The market rewards patience, knowledge, and curiosity. And when a discovery like the 1971 Philadelphia Kennedy $50 transitional era hits the headlines, it reminds every collector why they started in the first place: to find the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. Today, the market for rare U.S. coins is surging once again. As inflation rises and trust in paper wealth wavers, tangible assets like coins are drawing renewed attention. But beyond the profit, there's something deeper: a desire for permanence, a connection to craftsmanship, a bridge between generations. That's what makes this story so powerful. A $50 struck during a time of transition now symbolizes everything investors seek: scarcity, history, and the mystery of discovery. It's a reminder that value isn't just measured in dollars, but in meaning. So if you ever stumble upon a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar with no mint mark, take a closer look. Feel its weight, study its edges, listen to its song. You might just be holding a forgotten fortune, a coin that bridges two worlds, one born of silver, the other of copper and nickel. Yet both telling the same story, that even in the most ordinary moments of history, there's always a chance to uncover something extraordinary, because in numismatics, as in life, the difference between a 50-cent piece and a fortune is knowing where to look. And sometimes the treasure you seek has been in your hands all along. Most people would shrug and toss it back into circulation. But for collectors, that tiny detail, the absence of a mint mark, isn't a mistake. It's a message, a whisper from the U.S. Mint's past, carrying secrets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in the case of the 1973 no mint mark Kennedy half-dollar, that whisper has become a roar in the numismatic world, because one specimen recently sold for an astonishing $708,000. The story of this coin begins, as so many do, not in fame but in obscurity. 1973 was a quiet year in American coinage. The moon landing excitement had faded. Vietnam was winding down, and the U.S. economy was limping through the aftershocks of inflation and oil crises. Yet inside the Philadelphia Mint, something remarkable happened. Officially, all 1973 Kennedy half-dollars were struck either in Philadelphia or Denver. Coins from Denver bore the familiar D mint mark. Philadelphia issues, as tradition dictated at that time, carried no mark at all. To most, that meant nothing unusual. But here's where things turned strange, because the Philadelphia issues were not intended for general circulation. That's right. In 1973, the Mint struck millions of Kennedy half-dollars, but none were meant to jingle in the pockets of ordinary Americans. They were packaged in mint and proof sets, collector-only products, sealed and shipped to hobbyists. The public would never see them in everyday transactions. So how did one of these coins, a no mint mark half-dollar, end up being worth hundreds of thousands? The answer lies in imperfection and in the mystery of rarity born from precision. Most 1973 half-dollars from the Philadelphia Mint are ordinary, valued only a few dollars, even in pristine condition. But a handful, perhaps only a few dozen, escaped into circulation under strange circumstances. Some were struck with extraordinary precision, possibly from experimental planchets or pre-proof dies. A few display remarkable full luster, mirror-like fields, and deeply frosted reliefs, qualities that defy their supposed business strike origin. These outliers blur the line between proof and circulation strike. They sit in that rare gray zone where a single coin's physical traits, its strike sharpness, die polish, and preservation, transform it from pocket change into a six-figure masterpiece. But rarity alone doesn't explain why collectors are willing to pay over $500,000 for one. To understand that, we have to talk about emotion. The Kennedy half-dollar is not just metal, it's memory. When it debuted in 1964, months after President John F. Kennedy's assassination, Americans lined up outside banks just to hold a piece of him. The coin became an instant icon, a national mourning token, a symbol of hope, and a reflection of unity in tragedy. Every collector who hunts a Kennedy half isn't just chasing value, they're chasing that feeling. The nostalgia of a nation grieving, rebuilding, remembering. The 1973 no mint mark issue taps directly into that emotion because it bridges two worlds, the end of the silver era and the dawn of modern minting precision. It's both history and anomaly, and in the market, emotion is currency. Let's pause for a second. How many coins do you think you've passed over in your lifetime without realizing their hidden worth? Hundreds? Thousands? Most collectors have that one story, the coin that got away. A rare variety sold in a garage sale, a misstrike spent on coffee, a special minting flaw overlooked. The thrill of numismatics lives in those moments. The what-if that keeps you digging through rolls long after midnight, and that's exactly what happened with the 1973 no mint mark Kennedy half-dollar. For decades, it slept in obscurity. Then, as grading technology advanced, a few sharp-eyed experts began noticing something different about certain 1973 specimens, coins with unusually sharp relief and proof-like mirrors, but lacking the S-proof mint mark. When one of these surfaced at auction, authenticated in gem condition, it stunned the market. A seemingly ordinary 50-cent coin hammered at over $700,000, setting collectors and investors alike into a frenzy. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The true power of a coin like this isn't just in its metal composition, copper nickel clad over copper. It's in the psychology it awakens. Scarcity ignites competition. Competition fuels desire, and desire drives price. In a world where wealth often feels digital and abstract, rare coins are tangible proof of history's permanence. You can hold them, study them, and, if you're lucky, profit from them. The 1973 no-mint mark Kennedy half-dollar embodies all of that. A story of human error, national legacy, and financial opportunity, all in one piece of metal weighing just over 11 grams. But let's not forget, every great coin has a shadow side. For every authentic treasure, there are counterfeits, ingenious imitations crafted to deceive even seasoned eyes. As prices climb, so do fakes. Experts caution that some altered 1973 D coins have had their mint marks removed in attempts to mimic the no-mark variety. Under magnification, you can sometimes see the faint scar of tampering, a subtle distortion of metal around where the D once sat. So, if you ever stumble upon a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar with no mint mark, pause before you celebrate. Check the surfaces. Examine the strike. Look for the mirror-like fields and frosted relief that distinguish the true rarity from its imitators. A genuine specimen will feel almost electric in hand, balanced, crisp, alive. Here's a question that might surprise you. Why are modern collectors, especially investors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, flocking to coins like this instead of traditional stocks or crypto? The answer is trust. Coins like the 1973 no-mint mark half-dollar represent something that digital wealth can't replicate, authenticity anchored in time. They can't be hacked, inflated, or deleted. Each carries a tangible connection to America's past and a promise to endure into its future. In recent years, numismatic markets have seen a dramatic uptick in demand for high-grade Kennedy halves, Franklin halves, and early silver series. Wealth preservation has become emotional as much as financial. Investors aren't just buying coins, they're buying legacy. Think of it this way. A share certificate fades. A cryptocurrency can vanish with a server crash. But a rare coin? It can survive empires. And within the collecting community, there's an unspoken thrill, a sense of belonging to a hidden order of guardians, preserving fragments of the nation's story. To own a coin like the 1973 no-mint mark Kennedy half-dollar isn't just to possess wealth. It's to become part of a continuum stretching from the mint engravers of the 1970s to the numismatic scholars of today. So how can you recognize or even find one? While chances are slim, experts recommend starting with mint sets from 1973, especially those acquired directly from the Philadelphia Mint in their original packaging. Look for coins that display abnormally strong strikes, reflective surfaces, and perfect rims. If you ever find one that feels too perfect, don't dismiss it. Send it for professional grading. Third-party authentication from firms like PCGS or NGC can mean the difference between a $5 curiosity and a $700,000 windfall. And remember, the most valuable coins often hide in the least likely places: old safe deposit boxes, estate collections, inherited albums. The next great discovery might not come from a dealer's showcase, but from an attic in Ohio, a basement in Texas, or a forgotten drawer in your own home. There's also a deeper layer to this coin's mystique. The Kennedy half-dollar was one of the last circulating coins to carry genuine national sentiment. Every design detail, the presidential portrait by Gilroy Roberts, the heraldic eagle by Frank Gasparo, was meant to capture the spirit of an era that believed in ideals larger than itself. By 1973, that idealism had dimmed, replaced by skepticism and uncertainty. Yet the mint kept striking the coin, almost defiantly as a symbol of continuity. Perhaps that's why collectors are so drawn to this anomaly. The 1973 no mint mark issue represents a kind of hidden endurance, a reminder that even in transitional times, something pure can emerge unnoticed. Now, let's stir the imagination a little further. Picture a future where your grandchildren open a small box you once kept locked away. Inside, nestled in velvet, rests a single coin, the 1973 no mint mark Kennedy half-dollar. They research it and discover it's worth not hundreds of thousands, but millions. Not just for its condition, but for its story. In that moment, your legacy transcends wealth. It becomes history preserved through your curiosity. That's the true power of numismatics. It's not just about accumulation. It's about preservation, of value, of memory, of meaning. Every great collector knows this truth. The market rises and falls. But rarity, beauty, and story never lose their magnetism. Today, as more Americans rediscover tangible assets, coins like the 1973 no mint mark half-dollar stand as beacons. They remind us that fortune often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone perceptive enough to see it. So the next time you're flipping through old rolls or sorting a mint set, pause when you see a 1973. Look closer. Feel its weight. Listen to the silence where a mint mark should be. That silence might be worth more than gold. It might be the echo of history calling your name. Because in the mysterious, enduring world of American coinage, value isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in the stories we uncover, the legacies we protect, and the treasures we refuse to overlook. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, the next million-dollar discovery isn't hidden in a vault, but right there in the palm of your hand. A simple omission, a tiny missing letter, has turned this ordinary piece of American change into a potential fortune worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people have handled one just like it, and never knew. The year was 1977. America was still recovering from the cultural tremors of the Vietnam era. The nation's economy was shaky, gold was rising, and silver, the heart of coinage for centuries, had already vanished from circulation. Yet the Kennedy half-dollar remained a symbol of national pride, carrying the noble profile of a fallen president who still represented hope and idealism. That year, at the Philadelphia Mint, something happened. Or rather, something didn't happen. A handful of coins left the press without the mint mark that signified their birthplace. No tiny D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Not even the traditional P that would later mark Philadelphia issues. Just pure, unadulterated design, the presidential face, the heraldic eagle, and a silent mystery beneath the date. Now, for most people, that little missing letter wouldn't mean a thing. But for collectors, that absence was everything. It was like a fingerprint missing from a crime scene. You see, in the world of numismatics, the art and science of coin collecting, errors are the poetry of chance. They are born in fleeting seconds on the minting floor, when human precision meets mechanical imperfection, and they tell stories no ordinary coin can ever tell. Each no mint mark, Kennedy half-dollar from 1977, whispers of a moment when something went wrong. Or perhaps something remarkable went right, because not only were these coins struck under routine production conditions, but they somehow escaped quality checks, mixed into regular circulation, and vanished into America's pocket change. For decades, nobody noticed. And that's what makes them so powerful today. A normal 1977 Kennedy half-dollar, struck in copper-nickel clad, might fetch 50 cents, maybe $1 in uncirculated condition. But a verified 1977 no mint mark specimen, in pristine grade, has the power to command upwards of $700,000 on the right day, at the right auction, with the right story behind it. That's not an exaggeration. Coin collectors and investors alike know that rarity alone isn't enough. It's the combination of condition, provenance, and mystery that ignites value, and the no mint mark Kennedy half-dollar checks every box. But what really drives this kind of value? Part of it is collector psychology, a mix of curiosity, fear of missing out, and nostalgia. Every collector dreams of being the one who discovers the next great rarity, the modern counterpart to the 1913 Liberty Nickel or the 1909 VDB Lincoln Cent from San Francisco. The thrill isn't just in owning wealth. It's in uncovering something lost, something hidden by time. That emotional pulse, that heartbeat of discovery, keeps the numismatic market alive. And then there's the investment angle. In a world where inflation erodes paper wealth and digital assets fluctuate with every headline, rare coins stand as tangible relics of value. Each one tells a story the stock market never could. Think about it. Gold and silver respond to markets. But coins, true rare coins, respond to history. Collectors often say, every coin has two sides, one of metal and one of memory. The Kennedy $50 embodies that perfectly. Minted in honor of a president taken too soon, its design was meant to unite a grieving nation. Families hoarded them in drawers and jars, believing they carried more than just 50 cents. They carried meaning. So when a version emerges that shouldn't exist, like the 1977 no mint mark issue, it transforms from currency into legacy. It's not just about the missing mint mark anymore. It's about what that missing mark represents: imperfection, rarity, and a whisper of history that only the keen-eyed can catch. But here's where it gets intriguing and a bit unsettling. How many of these coins are still out there? The truth is, nobody knows. Some experts estimate fewer than a dozen verified examples exist in high grades. Others believe more may be sitting unnoticed in collections or even tucked away in coffee cans, forgotten by families who once saved them out of sentiment. Imagine walking into a yard sale, flipping through a dusty album of $50, and spotting that subtle absence under the date. The missing D, the empty space where a mint mark should be, that's the kind of discovery that changes lives and rewrites numismatic history. Now, before you start checking every Kennedy $50 in your pocket, there's something important to understand. The world of rare coin discovery isn't luck, it's awareness. It's pattern recognition. It's the ability to see what others overlook. Seasoned collectors know to examine coins under soft light, to watch for anomalies, a doubled die, a repunched date, a filled mint mark, or in this case, none at all. They use magnification not to find perfection, but to spot imperfection that the mint never intended. And that, ironically, is where value hides, in imperfection. Because in a mass-produced world, individuality is priceless. A quick historical detour. The last time a no-mint mark caused a similar sensation was in 1982, when the Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from Philadelphia was struck without its identifying letter. That error became an instant legend, pushing values sky-high for specimens in brilliant, uncirculated condition. Collectors took notice, investors took notes, and the pattern repeated, history rewarding those who paid attention. So when whispers began about a 1977 Kennedy $50 missing its mark, seasoned numismatists recognized the echo of opportunity, and as those coins began to surface, authentication services like PCGS and NGC became gatekeepers, grading, certifying, and ultimately legitimizing their existence. What's fascinating is how market dynamics play into the story. The numismatic market isn't static. It breathes. It reacts to cultural moments, anniversaries, even political climates. In uncertain times, people return to what's real, to tangible assets that can be held, admired, and passed down. And that's where coins like the 1977 no mint mark $50 become more than collectibles. They become heirlooms of wealth and resilience. They remind us that history isn't just written in books, it's minted in metal. Now, let's pose a question. What if one of these coins is sitting right now in a forgotten drawer, waiting to be recognized? What if the next $1 million Kennedy $50 hasn't even been discovered yet? That possibility fuels an entire generation of modern treasure hunters, men and women who don't need maps or shovels, just magnifiers and curiosity, because in numismatics, the hunt never ends. The mint may strike billions of coins, but the human eye still finds stories in the few that defy the norm. And yet, the deeper truth lies not just in financial reward, but in connection, to the past, to craftsmanship, and to the quiet thrill of preservation. Every coin tells a story of human ambition. The engravers, the presses, the inspectors, each left traces of themselves in the final product. And when something goes wrong, when a mint mark is forgotten or misplaced, it's as though time itself decided to leave a secret behind. Owning one of these coins isn't just owning a piece of metal. It's holding a piece of a moment that wasn't supposed to survive. That's the true power of collecting. The next time you hold a Kennedy $50, take a closer look. Run your thumb beneath the date. Feel the ridges. Listen to the soft ring as it hits a tabletop, because sometimes the rarest treasures don't announce themselves. They wait quietly for the right eyes to see them. The 1977 no mint mark Kennedy $50 is more than an error. It's a symbol of how the smallest details can redefine value and how history has a way of rewarding those who pay attention. In the grand story of American coinage, it stands as a reminder. The difference between 50 cents and a fortune is not chance. It's awareness. So keep searching. Keep learning. Because the next time you open an old box of coins, you might just be holding a $700,000 secret in the palm of your hand. In every collection lies a story waiting to be told. In every overlooked coin, a chapter of history forgotten by time. And in every heart that collects, there's a quiet hope that what we hold today will become the legacy we leave behind.